She was Ilara Hayes, a name that used to mean something. Now she was just an ex-wife cast out of the New York County Supreme Court with nothing but the designer clothes on her back, clothes her billionaire husband had bought her. He kept the $200 million penthouse. He kept the Hamptons estate. He kept her dignity. As the rain hammered down, Ilara walked out alone, a pariah in a $1,000 suit. But just as her world was ending, a black Rolls-Royce Cullinan sliced through the rain. The door opened. A man she'd never met looked out, not with pity, but with calculation. His name was Julian St. Clair. And he didn't just own a jet. He owned the sky she was about to fly in. The gavel strike was a concussion. It didn't just end the hearing, it ended a life. Ilara Hayes. No, the court had just reaffirmed she was legally Ilara Hayes, again stood frozen. The sterile wood-paneled courtroom of the New York County Supreme Court felt like it was shrinking around her. The court finds in favor of the petitioner, Mr. Thorne. The prenuptial agreement signed November 4, 2015 is hereby upheld in its entirety. Her lawyer, a man from Sullivan and Cromwell, whose billing rate was higher than her monthly allowance had been, didn't even flinch. He just quietly packed his monogrammed leather briefcase. He'd warned her. He'd told her Marcus Thorne's legal team was an iron wall. Marcus, seated 20 feet away, didn't look at her. He never did not anymore. He was busy checking his Patek Philippe, a Nautilus, the one she'd bought him for their 5th anniversary. He adjusted the knot of his Tom Ford tie and gave his lawyer the infamous Shark Shapiro a curt, satisfied nod. The verdict was a public execution. Ilara was entitled to nothing. Not the penthouse on Central Park South, not the waterfront property in the Hamptons, not a single piece of the art she had so carefully curated for their collection. The prenup, which she had signed in a haze of love and trust, was a masterpiece of legal cruelty. It had an infidelity clause with a morality provision so vague that her public disagreement with him at a charity gala was cited as a breach of spousal duty. She was the difficult wife, the ungrateful gold digger. The narrative had been set by Marcus's PR team months ago, plastered across the New York Post and page 6. "Ms. Hayes," her lawyer said, his voice flat, "we're done here." She walked out of the courtroom on autopilot. The Christian Louboutin heels, a congratulations on the divorce gift to herself, bought on the last dregs of her credit, clicked hollowly on the marble floor. The sound was a countdown to her new life. A life of nothing. The hallway was a different kind of war zone. Marcus was swarmed by reporters. He played the part of the grieving, benevolent victor. This was never about money. He lied smoothly, his voice resonating with false sincerity. It was about principle. I wish Ilara the best. I truly hope she finds the help she needs. The help she needs. He made her sound unstable. The reporters glanced at her, a predator's fleeting interest, but she was old news. The loser. She pushed through the heavy doors and into the gray, unforgiving rain of a New York afternoon. The rain was instant, soaking her silk blouse and matting her hair. She'd come in a car service. She would be leaving in, she wasn't sure. Her friends, the wives of Marcus's partners, the socialites she'd lunched with at Balthazar, had evaporated. Her phone, once a symphony of pings, was silent. She stood under the meager protection of the portico, a statue of failure. The city moved on around her. Taxis splashed yellow streaks through the street, all of them occupied. She shivered, the cold seeping into her bones. This was it, the absolute 0 point of her life. Then a vehicle pulled up to the curb, displacing a river of water. It didn't just park. It arrived. A high-gloss, black-on-black Rolls-Royce Cullinan. The windows were so dark they looked like polished obsidian. A man in a suit that was clearly Savile Row, bespoke, simple, sharp, and terrifyingly expensive, stepped out from the driver's side. He didn't rush with an umbrella. He simply walked to the rear passenger door and opened it. He looked directly at her, not at the crowd, not at Marcus, who was still holding court on the steps. At her. Ilara recoiled, assuming it was a mistake. Maybe it was for Marcus. The man, built like a linebacker with the face of a diplomat, took 3 purposeful strides toward her. He stopped a respectful 5 feet away. "Ms. Hayes." His voice was a low baritone, professional and unhurried. "Mr. St. Clair invites you to join him." Elara blinked, the rain dripping from her eyelashes. I think you have the wrong person." "Elara Hayes, recently divorced from Marcus Thorne. You are the correct person," the man said. His name, she would learn, was Graves. "The car is warm. It's much better than the rain." She looked back at the courthouse steps. Marcus had just spotted the Rolls-Royce. His smile faltered. A flash of confusion, no annoyance, crossed his face. Who was muscling in on his victory? Elara looked back at the open door of the Cullinan. She could see nothing inside its plush, dark interior. She had 2 options: stay and be humiliated further by her ex-husband, or get into a car with a total stranger. "Who is Mr. St. Clair?" she asked, her voice trembling. "He's the man offering you a ride out of the rain," Graves replied. She looked at Marcus one last time. He was watching her, his eyes narrowed. That small act of defiance cemented it. She took a deep breath, straightened her spine, and walked past Graves into the car. The door closed with a heavy, soundless thunk, sealing off the world. The smell of rich leather and something clean like bergamot filled her senses. It was silent. The chaos of the city was gone. A man sat opposite her. He wasn't looking at his phone. He was looking at her. He was perhaps 40, with sharp, intelligent eyes the color of steel. His black hair was perfectly cut. He wore a simple dark blue quarter-zip sweater. She recognized it as Loro Piana, and tailored trousers. No tie, no flashy watch. He exuded an aura of such profound wealth that it made Marcus's look theatrical. Marcus played at being rich. This man simply was. "Ms. Hayes," he said. His voice was calm, with a transatlantic accent. "My apologies for the unconventional invitation. You looked like you needed an extraction." "Where are we going?" Elara asked, her heart hammering. "Teterboro," the man said as the car pulled seamlessly into traffic. Elara's blood ran cold. Teterboro was the private airport. I don't have a passport." The man permitted himself a small, thin smile. "You won't need one. We're flying to my estate in the Adirondacks. It's domestic." He leaned forward slightly. "My name is Julian St. Clair, and I've been watching your ex-husband, for a very long time. I think you and I have a great deal to discuss." The 20-minute drive to Teterboro Airport was spent in a weighted silence. Elara, still damp, sat on the buttery soft leather of the Rolls-Royce, her mind trying to catch up. Julian St. Clair simply watched the rain-lashed scenery of the FDR Drive as if he had all the time in the world. He didn't ask her questions. He didn't offer platitudes. He just waited. Graves drove the Cullinan directly onto the tarmac, pulling up beside a machine that made Elara's breath catch. It was a Gulfstream G650ER. Not a small Learjet, not a chartered puddle jumper. This was the pinnacle of private aviation, a sleek pearl-white spear capable of flying from New York to Hong Kong without stopping. On the tail, a simple, elegant logo, a stylized S. "This way," Julian said as Graves opened her door. An attendant was waiting with a large umbrella. Elara walked up the steps and into the cabin. It was not the party jet Marcus had sometimes chartered with its garish chrome and mirrored ceilings. This was a flying boardroom, a study in quiet luxury. Cream leather, dark walnut paneling, and brushed bronze fixtures. The air was warm. A flight attendant dressed in an elegant navy blue suit took Elara's damp blazer. "Please sit," Julian gestured to a club chair. "Would you like some tea, or perhaps something stronger? I find a Macallan 18 is an excellent antidote to a bad day." "Tea. Just tea, please," Elara murmured. As the jet began its powerful, seamless taxi to the runway, Julian finally spoke. Marcus Thorne, he said, taking a seat opposite her. He's a parasite who's convinced the world he's a king. He built his entire empire, Thorne Industries, on a lie. Ilara stiffened. If you're looking for me to violate my NDA... Julian laughed. It wasn't a kind sound. Ms. Hayes, that NDA is a paper shield. It's designed to protect him from you, a single, broke, and emotionally devastated woman. It was not designed to protect him from me. He leaned in, his steel-gray eyes pinning her. Tell me, in your 10 years of marriage, did Marcus ever mention a man named Arthur Vance? Ilara frowned. No, I don't think so. He wouldn't have, Julian said. Arthur Vance was my father. The jet noise faded into the background. I don't understand, Ilara said. My father was a brilliant software engineer. 20 years ago, he developed a logistics algorithm, a piece of code that could revolutionize global shipping. He called it Helios. He needed a partner with capital, someone to sell it. He found a young, hungry, charismatic partner. That man's name was Marcus Thorne. Ilara felt the blood drain from her face. Marcus didn't just have capital, Julian continued, his voice dangerously soft. He had a plan. He convinced my father to sign over the intellectual property to a joint holding company. Then, using a series of shell corporations, Marcus diluted my father's shares to zero and locked him out. He stole the company, the code, and the credit. He renamed Helios to Thorne Logistics, and it became the foundation of his entire empire. My father, he fought him in court, but Marcus had better lawyers. He buried my father in paperwork and debt. Arthur Vance died of a heart attack 6 months later, completely penniless. I was 19. Ilara was speechless. The man she had married, she knew he was ruthless, but this was monstrous. I've spent the last 20 years building my own world, Julian said, gesturing around the cabin. I didn't just want to get rich, Ms. Hayes. I wanted to get powerful. Powerful enough that when the time was right I could dismantle Marcus Thorne piece by piece. Why are you telling me this? Ilara whispered. Why me? The G650 banked gently as it climbed, breaking through the clouds into a sudden blinding expanse of blue sky and sunlight. The transition was jarring. Because I was at the courthouse today, Julian said. Or rather, my team was. I was waiting for the verdict. I was preparing to make Marcus an offer to buy his company, a hostile takeover he's been fighting me on for 6 months. When I heard he'd won, I was disappointed. He was secure again, untouchable. And then, he continued, I saw you, the one asset he just let walk out the door, the one person who has been inside his house, inside his life for a decade. He set his teacup down. Marcus is a creature of habit, and he's arrogant. He believes he's won. He's celebrating. But I know he has a weakness. My father's work wasn't just one algorithm. It was a platform. And Marcus, for all his bluster, is not a genius. He couldn't replicate it. He kept the original Helios source code, the proof of the theft, somewhere. A failsafe. A key. I've had teams of digital security experts, ex-Mossad, ex-CIA, try to find it. They can't. It's not on any server. It must be, Julian said, a physical object, a hard drive, a ledger, a set of keys, and it's somewhere only he would feel secure. His study, Ilara breathed almost to herself. The penthouse. It's behind a biometric scanner. He calls it the sanctum. Julian's eyes lit up. A shark scenting blood. Exactly. A place no one has been inside. Except, I suspect, for you. You were his wife. You ran his houses. I organized the catering, Ilara said, feeling a flush of her old shame. You did more than that, Julian countered. You curated his art collection. You vetted his staff. You managed the household budgets. You are the single greatest security breach in Marcus Thorne's life. He just doesn't know it yet. Here it was, the proposition. He's going to Ibiza for his annual victory trip, Julian said. He leaves in 2 days. He'll be gone for a week. That's our window. You want me to break into my old home? Alara was horrified. I'll go to jail. He'll kill me. You will not go to jail, Julian said flatly. And you will not be alone. I am offering you a choice, Alara. You can take the pittance he left you, which I assume is nothing, and try to rebuild a life as a social pariah. Or you can join me. You can be the architect of his downfall. You can take back not just the money, but your name, your reputation, and your power. What's in it for me? Besides revenge. I don't believe in revenge. Ms. Hayes, Julian said. Revenge is emotional. This is a transaction. I want the Helios key. It is my father's legacy, and it's the only thing that can legally destroy Marcus from the outside in. In return, I will give you a new beginning. He smiled, and this time it almost reached his eyes. I will give you $100 million seed fund. I will set you up as the head of your own foundation, art, humanitarian work, whatever you choose. I will give you the lawyers, the PR team, and the resources to paint your own narrative. I will make you so powerful that Marcus Thorne will look like a footnote in your story. He extended his hand. He took your past. I'm offering you a future. Alara looked at his outstretched hand. She thought of the rain, the cold, and the smug look on Marcus's face. She thought of Arthur Vance, a man she'd never known, destroyed by a monster she had slept next to. She took his hand. It was firm and warm. Good, Julian said, settling back into his chair. We land in 30 minutes. Then the real work begins. We are going to dismantle your old life and build a new one, a better one. Julian St. Clair's estate in the Adirondacks was less a house and more a high-tech command bunker disguised as an Amman resort. The G650 landed on a private airstrip. The main lodge, a sprawling masterpiece of glass, cedar, and steel, overlooked a private mist-covered lake. But the inside was not rustic. It was a hub. Alara was introduced to Julian's team. There was Sasha, a woman with ice-blue eyes and a background in cybersecurity that she would only describe as corporate. Dev, a former British SAS operative who was now a physical penetration specialist, and a team of lawyers who, unlike her previous ones, looked less like men and more like weapons. Alara is our in, Julian announced to them in a glass-walled conference room. She is the social key. We need to turn her into a technical one. The next 48 hours were the most intense of Alara's life. This was not a makeover. It was an unmaking. First, Sasha said, "We have to dethorn you." They started with her digital self. Sasha scrubbed her. The social media accounts Marcus's PR team had created for her, photos of her at charities, smiling benignly, were vaporized. Her personal email, her credit history. All of it was put into a deep digital freeze. "You are now a ghost," Sasha announced, "which means we can build a new you." A new encrypted iPhone was provided, new untraceable bank accounts. Then came Dev. He took her to a high-tech gymnasium. "Your husband's security system." Dev began pulling up a schematic on a massive screen. "It's a Fortress Prime Level 3. Biometrics, thermal sensors, pressure plates. Good stuff, expensive stuff, but you bought it." Alara stared. Yes, I signed the invoices. I met with the installers." "Good," Dev grinned. "That means you know its quirks. But do you know this?" He spent the next day teaching her, not martial arts, but infiltration. How to bypass a laser grid. It's not like the movies love. You don't need to be a gymnast. You just need to know the pulse and move with it. How to open a biometric lock without the owner's thumb. A little cyanoacrylate, some laser printer toner. How to defeat a sound sensor. Always move on the out-breath. Silence is about rhythm. Alara, it turned me, was a fantastic student. Her years of navigating the social minefields of the Upper East Side had made her meticulous, patient, and an expert at reading micro-expressions. She's a natural, Dev told Julian. She's been infiltrating places she doesn't belong for a decade. This is just a different kind of party. Finally, Julian handled the last part of her transformation, the why. He brought her to his private study. It was lined with books, not trophies. "You're not just a trophy wife, Alara," he said, handing her a tablet. "I did my research." On the screen were articles she had written before Marcus. Scholarly papers from her post-grad work at the Courtauld Institute of Art in London. Her specialization identifying forgeries in 19th-century European painting. "You're an expert," Julian said. "One of the best. And Marcus used you." It was true. Her job as his wife had been to find and acquire art. He'd used her expertise to build a collection that wasn't just beautiful, it was a portfolio. He'd buy pieces on her recommendation, hold them, and then donate them to his own museums at an inflated appraisal, creating massive tax write-offs. He used my eye, my knowledge, to commit fraud. Ilara realized the words tasting like ash. "Yes," Julian said. "He turned your passion into his weapon. I'm offering you a chance to turn it back." He showed her a new set of schematics. "This is Marcus's study, the sanctum. You've been inside. Where is the one place he would hide something physical?" Alara looked at the plans. The room was dominated by a massive climate-controlled vault. "That's where he keeps his art," she said. "A Rothko, a small Monet, and a Pollock. That vault is his pride and joy." "And the Helios key." Ilara zoomed in. Her eyes traced the room, the desk, the shelves, the fireplace. "No," she whispered. "It's not in the vault. The vault is a decoy. It's too obvious. It's for show." She thought back. Marcus in his study, a glass of Laphroaig in hand. "What did he look at?" "The painting," she said. "The one over the fireplace. It's a portrait of his father. A terrible, gaudy painting, but he'd never let the cleaners touch it. He said it was sentimental." "He doesn't have a sentimental bone in his body," Julian stated. "Exactly," Ilara agreed. "It must be a safe, hidden behind the portrait." A slow smile spread across Julian's face. "Good. Sasha, Dev, get her ready. Marcus's flight just took off from Teterboro. He's on his way to Ibiza." "It's time," Julian said to Ilara. "Are you ready to meet your old life?" Ilara looked at her reflection in the dark glass of the conference room. The woman looking back was not the broken victim from the courthouse steps. Her hair was pulled back in a severe practical knot. She wore simple black tactical gear. Her eyes were not tear-filled. They were clear-focused and cold. "I'm not going back to my old life, Julian," she said. "I'm going to end it." The penthouse at 157 was one of the most secure residential buildings in the world. But Julian St. Clair didn't operate on the same level as other people. "You can't go in the front door," Sasha explained as they sat in a high-tech surveillance van parked 2 blocks away. "The doorman, the elevators, all of it is keyed to Marcus's biometrics and he'll get an alert. So we're not going up. We're going down." The plan was audacious. Ilara, guided by Dev, would enter the building's maintenance sublevels. They had acquired the schematics. Ilara would access the dark shaft, a redundant service elevator shaft that was unmonitored. From there, Dev would rig a tactical climbing harness, and Ilara would ascend, or rather be pulled up, 75 floors to the penthouse's private service entrance. "You'll have a 2-hour window," Sasha said, fitting a discreet earpiece into Ilara's ear. "Dev is looping the building's security feed. To anyone watching, it's just an empty hallway, but the loop only lasts 120 minutes. You must be out by then." Ilara, dressed in black, her face set, just nodded. The infiltration was terrifying. The climb in the dark, dusty shaft with only Dev's voice in her ear and the whisper of the harness made her heart pound. But fear was a luxury she could no longer afford. "Service door. You're there." Dev's voice crackled. Ilara landed silently on the polished marble of the service hallway. She was in. She was inside. The penthouse was silent, a $200 million tomb. It smelled like Marcus, like Creed Aventus cologne and sterile money. She walked through the grand salon, her tactical boots silent on the stark carpet she had chosen. She passed the Fazioli piano she used to play. She felt nothing. It wasn't her home. It was just a place. She reached the study. The sanctum. "Okay, Alara." Sasha's voice was in her ear. "Biometric panel. This is the first test. It's keyed to Marcus's print." "He's arrogant," Alara whispered, pulling a kit from her belt. "He'll have used his primary hand, his right thumb." Working with the speed and precision Dev had taught her, she dusted the scanner. A faint, perfect thumbprint glowed. She carefully photographed it, sent the image to Sasha, who inverted and cleaned it, and then printed it onto a thin gelatin film. "Here's the tricky part," Alara murmured. She applied the film, breathed on it to add moisture and heat, and pressed. The panel beeped. The light turned green. A heavy click echoed in the room as the vacuum-sealed door unlocked. Alara stepped inside. The sanctum was just as she remembered. Dark wood, a massive Eames chair, and the art vault. And there over the fireplace the hideous portrait of Marcus's father. "Going for the painting," she whispered. "Wait," Sasha said. "I'm picking up thermal. Someone is in the apartment, Alara. I'm seeing a heat signature in the master bedroom." Alara froze. "That's impossible. Marcus is in Ibiza." "The signature is not Marcus. It's smaller. And it's moving. Get out of there." "No," Alara said, her mind racing. "It's the vault, the art vault. It's climate controlled. The heat you're seeing is the compressor." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure," Alara said, her confidence surging. "It's a decoy. He's trying to make someone look there. The real prize is the painting." She walked to the fireplace. The painting was heavy. She found the quirk she'd suspected, a slight misalignment in the frame she'd noticed years ago. She pressed it. Nothing. She pressed it again. Still nothing. "It's not working," she hissed. "Calm down." Dev's voice cut in. "If it's not a physical switch, it's a sequence. You're the art expert. Look at the painting. Is there anything off in?" Alara scanned the terrible painting, the flat perspective, the dead eyes. "It's just bad art." "Focus." She looked closer. The painting showed Marcus's father at a desk. On the desk were 3 objects, a pen, a small globe, and a leather-bound book. "A sequence," Alara whispered. He's at his desk. What would he do?" She touched the painting. First the pen, then the book, then the globe. A low hydraulic hiss. The painting swung open. Behind it was a small titanium Ronnie's safe with a simple digital keypad. "Okay, Sasha, I'm at the safe. Keypad, 6 digits. "We'll have to brute force it," Sasha said. "That'll take time." "No," Alara said. "I know the code." She thought back. Marcus. His ego. His origin story. "What's the date he founded Thorn Industries?" Alara asked. Sasha typed. "August 10th, 08 to 10. Alara entered 081098. The safe beeped. Access denied. "No, that's the public date," Alara said, thinking hard. "The date he stole the company from your father, Julian." She heard Julian's voice, low and intense, now patched into her earpiece. "May 22nd, 052298. Alara's fingers flew. 052298. Access granted. The safe door swung open. Alara shone her penlight inside. It was empty. No, not empty. Not a hard drive. Not a ledger. A single small, old-fashioned moleskin notebook, black and worn. "I have it," Alara breathed, grabbing the notebook. "I'm coming out." "Alara, stop." Julian's voice was suddenly frantic. "The alarm!" "You tripped a silent alarm. It wasn't the keypad. It was the safe itself. It has a pressure sensor. Marcus. Marcus must have been alerted. He's on a plane. He's coming back. What? No, wait! Sasha's voice was high with panic. He's not coming back. He never left. What are you talking about? Ilara whispered, backing out of the study. The flight plan to Ibiza, it was a fake A decoy. The heat signature. Oh, God. Ilara. The heat signature wasn't the vault. It was a person. He's in the apartment. He's in the apartment. As Sasha's voice screamed in her ear, Ilara heard a sound behind her. The slow, deliberate click of a light switch. The grand salon flooded with light. Marcus Thorne stood by the door blocking her exit. He was not in swim trunks. He was in a silk robe holding a glass of scotch. And he was smiling. "Hello, darling," he drawled. "You've been very, very busy. Did you really think it would be that easy?" Ilara's blood turned to ice. Julie and Sasha Dev. Their voices were a frantic cacophony in her ear, but they sounded a million miles away. "Ilara, get out. Now. Run to the terrace." Marcus sipped his scotch, his smile widening. He looked utterly relaxed. "Oh, don't bother listening to your little friends in the van, Ilara. The entire penthouse is a Faraday cage. Your comms are spotty at best. I let you think you were clever." He was right. The voices in her ear dissolved into static. She was alone. Again. "How?" She whispered, her hands, which had been so steady, now trembling. She clutched the moleskin notebook to her chest. "How?" Marcus laughed, a genuinely amused sound. "Because I made you Ilara. I found you when you were a broke art history student. I gave you a life. Did you think I wouldn't know your every move? You knew Julian was watching you." St. Clair. Marcus's face darkened for a split second. "He's been a gnat at my ear for 20 years. Of course I knew. I knew he was tracking my digital footprint. So I created a new one just for him. I leaked the Ibiza flight plan. I let his team discover the dark shaft. I wanted him to find you. I wanted him to send you. How else could I get you to violate your NDA and commit a felony all in one night?" He set his glass down and walked toward her. "I get to have you arrested for breaking and entering. I get to sue Julian St. Clair for corporate espionage. And I get to take back what's mine." He lunged for the notebook. But Ilara was not the same woman he'd divorced. Dev's training kicked in. She didn't fight him, she moved. She pivoted, using his own momentum against him, and slammed the heavy notebook against the side of his head. Marcus roared, not in pain, but in shock. He stumbled, catching himself on the Fazioli piano. It let out a dissonant, crashing chord. You hit me," he sputtered, outraged. "You should have left me in the rain," Ilara screamed. She ran not for the service door, but for the Grand Salon's main elevator. "It's biometrically sealed, you idiot," he yelled, scrambling after her. Ilara didn't slow down. She reached the elevator, slammed the call button, and then smashed the glass of the fire alarm next to it. A deafening shrill wail filled the penthouse. Red lights began to strobe. "The building alarms." Marcus paled. "The fire department. The police. They'll be here in minutes. What have you done?" "I've created a new exit," Ilara shouted. The fire alarm had triggered a building-wide override. The elevator biometrics were bypassed. The doors dinged open. Ilara threw herself inside. Marcus was right behind her. He dove into the elevator just as the doors were closing, tackling her. The notebook flew from her grasp, skittering into the corner of the elevator. They landed in a heap. The elevator, now on its emergency fire recall, began its rapid descent to the lobby. Marcus, his hair mussed, his silk robe torn, was on top of her. He was scrambling for the notebook. Ilara kneed him in the groin. He gasped, collapsing. She grabbed the notebook. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. The lobby. It was chaos. doormen, tenants in bathrobes, and two men who were definitely not tenants. They were in dark suits standing by the entrance, clearly annoyed by the alarm. But when they saw Marcus Thorne disheveled, clutching his groin in a silk robe, they froze. Marcus saw them, and his face went from white to ashen. Mr. Volkov, he stammered, pulling his robe closed. This is just a misunderstanding. The man named Volkov, who had a shaved head and a scar that ran from his temple to his jaw, did not look amused. His eyes, the color of dead chips of ice, traveled from Marcus to Alara, who was clutching the notebook. "You call us here for urgent meeting, Thorne," Volkov said, his voice a gravelly Russian growl. "You say, crisis. This is crisis you play with. Wife." "She's not my wife," Marcus yelped. She's a thief. She stole from me." Volkov's partner. A younger, equally terrifying man stepped forward. Ilara's mind, now in hyperdrive, was piecing things together. Julian had been wrong. This was so much bigger. Marcus hadn't been fighting a hostile takeover from Julian. He was fighting a hostile takeover from everyone. Thorne Industries was failing. The investors he'd been courting at his party. They weren't Goldman Sachs. They were the Bratva, the Russian mafia. This was the meeting Marcus had stayed for. He was trying to get a loan, a bailout from the most dangerous men in the city. Volkov's icy eyes landed on the moleskin in Ilara's hand. "What is in book?" "Nothing," Marcus shrieked. "It's nothing, just old notes." "He lies," Ilara said, her voice shaking but clear. She stood up, pulling her tactical gear straight. She looked directly into Volkov's dead eyes. "My name is Ilara Hayes. This man, my ex-husband, is a fraud. And this is his real ledger." "Give me the book, Ilara," Marcus snarled, lunging again. "Niet," Volkov said, and his younger partner simply stuck out a hand, catching Marcus by the throat and slamming him against the elevator's marble wall. Marcus gurgled, his feet dangling. Volkov walked calmly over to Ilara. He was a mountain of a man. The smell of expensive cologne and something metallic like copper rolled off him. He held out his hand. "Book, please." Ilara looked at Marcus, choking. She looked at the flashing red lights. She heard the distant wail of sirens. She was trapped. She had a choice. Give the book to the police and it would vanish into an evidence locker where Marcus's lawyers would bury it. Give it to Marcus and she was dead. Or she handed the notebook to Volkov. "This book," she said, thinking faster than she ever had in her life, "is a record. It details how Marcus Thorne has been using a shell company, Helios Logistics, to move your money. It shows how he's been cooking his books for 5 years. He's not just broke, he's been stealing from you." It was a complete wild-eyed fabrication. A guess. But it was the only card she had. Volkov took the notebook. He didn't open it. He just stared at her. His eyes were unreadable. He then looked at Marcus, who was now purple. He nodded to his partner, who dropped Marcus to the floor. Marcus crumpled, gasping. "You," Volkov said to Ilara, "are very smart, or very stupid. We will see." He tucked the notebook into his suit jacket. The sirens were deafening now. The first fire truck was pulling up. "You, come with us," Volkov said to Ilara. "No," a new voice shouted. The lobby doors burst open. It was Graves Julian's security man. He was flanked by Dev. They were not in tactical gear. They were in their sharp Savile Row suits. They did not look like security. They looked like management. "Mr. Volkov," Graves said, his voice polite but unyielding. "Ms. Hayes is a client of our employer. She will be coming with us." Volkov's partner put his hand inside his jacket. Dev, in response, simply flicked open his own jacket, revealing a Glock in a shoulder holster. And something else. A small laminated ID. Volkov's eyes narrowed. He recognized the ID. Alara didn't know what it was, but it wasn't CIA. It was something different. Something financial. Volkov stared at Graves. Graves stared back. It was a standoff between two apex predators. Finally, Volkov gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. "She is smart," he said, tapping the notebook in his pocket. "We will be in touch about this." He and his partner turned and walked calmly out a side door, melting into the chaos just as the firefighters stormed in. Graves put a steadying hand on Alara's arm. "Ms. Hayes, let's go. We have a problem." The surveillance van was gone. Graves and Dev bundled Alara into the back of a black Mercedes S-Class that had been waiting. "Where's Julian?" Alara demanded, her adrenaline starting to fade, replaced by a deep bone-rattling chill. "Airborne." Graves set his eyes scanning the street as the car sped away. "He's on his way back. He's displeased." "Displeased?" Alara said, her voice rising. "I was nearly killed. Marcus was there. And who the hell was Volkov? What was on that ID, Dev?" Dev in the front seat looked back. "Mr. St. Clair, he has a very diverse portfolio. Let's just say some of his interests overlap with the U.S. Treasuries. We have friends." "We have a bigger problem," Graves cut in. "You gave the notebook to Volkov." "I gave it to the man who wasn't choking me," Alara shot back. "It was either him or the fire department. I made a choice." "You made the right choice," said a voice from the car's speaker system. "Julian. He was on a satellite call." "But you've also complicated things, Alara. You gave a shark the one thing he didn't know he was looking for proof." "I guessed," Alara admitted. "I told him it was a ledger showing Marcus was stealing from him." There was a long pause. "Alara," Julian said, his voice strange. "The moleskin. It wasn't the Helios code. Sasha's team did a full digital sweep of the van. We were recording your audio, and we got a high-resolution snapshot of the notebook just as you opened it. Sasha's been running a translation." "Translation?" "It was in English." "No," Julian said. "The main text. It was in code, a simple substitution cipher. But the handwriting, that's what we focused on. It wasn't Marcus's. It wasn't his father's. Then whose was it?" "It was Arthur Vance's," Julian said. "It was my father's diary. The Helios key wasn't a hard drive. It was his journal, the one he kept in the last 6 months of his life." Alara's mind reeled. "But why would Marcus have it? And why in his sanctum?" "Because—" Julian's voice was heavy with a dawning, terrible realization. "It wasn't just his father who was a partner. Marcus's father, David Thorne, and my father, Arthur Vance, and a third man. They were all partners." "A third man?" "Mikhail Volkov," Julian said. "Mr. Volkov's father. They built the original company together with seed money from the Bratva Old Guard in Brighton Beach. My father was the brains, David Thorne was the salesman, and Mikhail Volkov was the muscle." The pieces slammed into place for Alara. "Marcus and his father didn't just steal the company from your father." Alara pieced it together. They squeezed everyone out. They betrayed your father, and they betrayed the mafia." "Yes," Julian said. "My father's diary. It wasn't just about the code. It was a ledger, a record of all the money the original Volkov had laundered through the company. Marcus wasn't keeping it as a trophy. He was keeping it as blackmail, insurance. If you ever come after me, he was telling Volkov, I'll release this and prove your family's origin story too. He was protecting himself. And tonight, Alar finished horrified. I didn't just hand Volkov a ledger. I handed him the ledger, the one that implicates his own family, and proves Marcus has been holding out on him. You've started a war, Ilara, Julian said. Volkov has the notebook. He'll... Interrogate Marcus. He'll find out the truth. And when he does, he will want the notebook. And its author's son, gone. And he will want the witness who read it, you, gone as well. The car sped through the night. Graves, Julian commanded. Take her to the G6 and 50. Get her out of the country, now. No, Alara said. The car, Graves, even the satellite call went silent. What did you say? Julian asked. I said no. Alara repeated, her voice gathering strength. I'm not running. Not again. I've spent the last 10 years running. I'm done. Alara, this isn't a divorce hearing. These are not lawyers. Volkov will kill you. And you, Alara said. He'll kill you too. He'll kill Marcus. He'll scrub the whole thing unless we get to him first. Get to him? He's a businessman, Julian, Alara insisted. A violent, terrifying businessman. But he wants something. He wants control of Thorn Industries. He wants the money Marcus stole. He doesn't want his family's dirty laundry all over the Wall Street Journal. What are you proposing? Julian's voice was wary. We don't run, Alara said, her eyes meeting Graves's in the rearview mirror. We negotiate. You and I. We go to Volkov. We offer him a deal he can't refuse. He has the book. He has all the leverage. He has a book, Alara countered. He doesn't know how to use it. He doesn't know the shell companies. He doesn't know where the offshore accounts are. I do. I was the one who on Marcus's orders signed the incorporation papers for his art holding companies in the Cayman Islands. I'm the key, and you have the one thing he needs to make it all legit. You have a name. You're Julian St. Clair. You can make a hostile takeover clean. She's right, sir, Graves said, his voice low. Running now. We'll be looking over our shoulder for the rest of our lives. We have to end this, on our terms. A long, crackling silence on the line. The S-Class was now heading downtown toward the dark glass towers of the financial district. All right, Alara. Julian's voice was hard as diamond. You want a war? We'll give them a war. Graves' change of plans. We're not going to the airport. We're going to my other office. The one under the stock exchange. He took a breath. Alara, you just walked out of a courtroom. You survived your husband. You survived a 75-story infiltration. And you survived the Bratva. Now, are you ready to become a billionaire? The next 12 hours were a masterclass in high-stakes corporate warfare. Julian's other office was a subterranean bunker, a trading floor that dealt not just in stocks but in power. Sasha, I want every digital asset of Thorn Industries frozen, now. Dev, I want a security detail on Marcus. I want to know where Volkov is interviewing him. Alara, Julian said, turning to her. You and I, we're going to write a new story. Alara, fueled by coffee and a burning righteous fury, sat with Julian's legal team. She mapped it all out. The shell companies. The donations. The fake Monet Marcus had sold to a rival using her appraisal as cover. By 4 Soru a.m., they had a dossier that would not just end Marcus Thorn, it would disintegrate him. By 5 Soru a.m., Dev reported in. Got him. Volkov has Marcus at the old Red Hook shipping terminal, the one his father used to run. Very poetic. By 6 Soru a.m., a call came. A blocked number. Julian answered. It was Volkov. Your client is very smart, the Russian said. This book, it is a problem. For everyone. It's not a problem, Mr. Volkov, Julian said, his voice smooth as silk. It's a negotiation. He's at the terminal, Julian said to Alara. He wants to meet. He wants to clean this. He's going to kill us all, Alara said. No, Julian said. He's a businessman. He'll kill one person, the one who's the most liability. Right now, that's Marcus. Soon it could be us. We have to change the math. How? Julian smiled. We're not going to the Red Hook terminal. We're bringing him to our territory, and we're going to bring a much bigger gun." The meeting was set for 900 a.m. Not in a dark warehouse, on the 101st floor observation deck of Hudson Yards. Public, high, no place to hide a body. Elara and Julian were waiting, the wind whipping around the glass partition, the entirety of New York spread out beneath them. Volkov arrived flanked by two men. He looked tired and angry. "You," he said to Julian, "your father was a fool." "He was," Julian agreed. "He trusted the wrong people." "And you," he said to Elara, "you are a problem." "I'm a solution," Elara said, her voice not wavering. "I have the book," Volkov said. "I have Thorn. I have everything." "No," Julian said. "You have a story, a messy one that implicates your family in money laundering, fraud, and God knows what else. You have a failing company in Thorn Industries, which as of 800 a.m. is under federal investigation." Volkov's eyes narrowed. "I called the SEC," Julian said. "I gave them part of the story, enough to freeze every asset. Thorn Industries is worthless. The company you killed for is now a paperweight." Volkov's hand twitched. You have nothing," Julian continued, "except that notebook, which is now evidence in a federal case." "What do you want?" Volkov growled. "Here's the deal," Elara said, stepping forward. "We give you a new story, a clean one." She laid it out. Julian's St. Clair Capital will absorb the good assets of Thorn Industries, the logistics, the tech, in a prepackaged bankruptcy. It's clean. It's legal. "Why do I care?" Volkov spat. "Because," Julian said, "in return you get what you always wanted. 50% ownership of the new holding company. No more Bratva shell games. You will be a legitimate 50% owner of a global logistics firm. Your name, your family's name, will be on the Forbes list, not an FBI watch list." Volkov was stunned. You would partner with me." "My father partnered with your father," Julian said. "This is just finishing the deal. As for the bad assets, the fraud, the theft, all of that stays with the Thorn Industries name, and with its CEO. Marcus," Elara said, "is the new story. He's the only villain. He defrauded his partners. He defrauded his investors, you. He defrauded his wife. He takes the fall. For everything." Volkov looked at Elara, then at Julian. He was being offered a kingdom cleaned and pressed. All he had to do was give up one man. "He's at Red Hook." Volkov said, a cold smile touching his lips. "He has been very talkative. A full confession. It's all recorded." "I'm sure it is," Julian said. "The SEC will be very interested in that recording." Volkov nodded. "The notebook. It belongs to the son of its author," Julian said. Volkov reached into his pocket and handed the moleskin to Julian. The deal was done. Elara stood alone on the tarmac at Teterboro, the same tarmac she had arrived on just 2 days prior. It felt like a lifetime. The G650 was waiting, its engines humming. "You're sure you don't want to come?" Julian asked. He was holding the moleskin. "My family's old home in Florence. It's quiet. You could decompress." Elara looked at the jet. It was an escape. It was a golden cage. "That's your story, Julian," she said, turning to him. "Your father's legacy. You're going to go read that, and you're going to find peace. Or you're going to find a new war. But it's yours." "And you, Elara. What's your story?" Elara looked back toward the city. "Marcus is in federal custody. Volkov is cleaning up the business. My old life is a crater. I'm not the woman who walked out of that courthouse. And I'm not the woman who got on your jet." "Who are you, then?" Elara smiled. It was the first real smile she'd had in a decade. "I'm Ms. Hayes, The art expert. You promised me a $100 million foundation. I have a lot of fake art to find, and I think I know exactly where Marcus donated all the real pieces. Julian laughed. A real warm laugh. He'll hate that. I know, she said. Julian nodded and walked up the steps of his jet. He paused at the door. You know, Alara, I was never inviting you into my jet. I was just giving you a lift. You were always the one flying the plane. The door closed. Alara Hayes stood on the tarmac alone. But for the first time in her life, she wasn't lonely. She pulled out her new phone, the one Sasha had given her, and dialed her new legal team. This is Alara Hayes, she said as the Gulfstream rocketed into the sky. Let's get to work. She started with nothing, lost everything, and ended up with a power she never knew she had. The world is full of people like Marcus who think they own the rules. But they forget about the Alaras, the quiet ones, the ones they underestimate, the ones who, when pushed, don't just get back up, they learn to fly. What did you think of Alara's story? Was her final move against Marcus and Volkov brilliant or just plain dangerous? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you loved this story of drama, revenge, and ultimate triumph, please hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs a story of strength, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell. We have new stories coming every week, and you won't want to miss a single one.